Hi, everyone, and welcome to the very first episode of the Musically Made podcast. My name is VaNia Ellison. I am from the great city of Philadelphia, and one cool fact about me is that this past August, I competed in a state pageant and I got top 10 in my first try. Now, this is a podcast that's centered around music, so I will now describe my relationship with music. I first started playing the clarinet when I was in the 6th grade. It was actually pretty crazy. I think my mom signed me up because I think I expressed interest, but I didn't do it. So a teacher came to a classroom that I was in and called me to the auditorium so I could get my first lesson. Then I fell in love with the clarinet after that. But once I entered high school in 9th grade, I found out that my music teacher was gonna let me play more than one instrument. So I saw the saxophone and I said, I wanna try this one. It was a tenor saxophone, if we're gonna be specific. I don't know how to play any other. Tenor saxophone stole my heart. In the 10th grade, I think I was definitely balancing both tenor saxophone and clarinet. Clarinet, obviously I had more experience on it. So when I did all city and concerts and stuff like that, my focus was clarinet. However, school concerts, I would switch back and forth from clarinet to saxophone, just because the school I went to, the band program wasn't really fleshed out. It wasn't that many students participating in it, so I think it helped that I flip-flopped instruments. But yeah, then I want to say in 12th grade, definitely in 12th grade, I decided to put the clarinet down so that I can focus more on the saxophone, just because I don't know, the connection I felt when I played the saxophone, and how Black people just have a special connection to jazz music. That was something that I really wanted to focus on and explore more. So yeah, in 12th grade, I had the opportunity to do some gigs and things of that nature, and it was really fun. Even got paid for them. So that's my relationship with music. Now, just so that, you guys can get a better gist of what this podcast means to me and what I want to do with it and what it's supposed to kind of look like going forward, I'm going to read off this little mission statement that I created. Musically Made Podcast aims to provide visibility to what I like to call pre-established artists through interviews with yours truly. With weekly episodes, the goal is to target people looking for new music and industry professionals seeking a fresh sound. In addition, I'll be sharing experiences I had in musical settings and weekly playlists curated by my listeners. I also want to bridge the gap from grind to goals by sharing industry tips from established artists and professionals as well, but that part will come in due time. So hopefully that helps, you guys understand the direction I want to take this podcast in. And there's so much more that I want to do with it too. Not that I can necessarily disclose right now, because, I like the element of surprise. I like just popping out with stuff. So yeah, I hope that, this podcast fulfills me, and I hope that it allows for helping people, because that's something I am passionate about, and I hope that it helps me grow my love for music even more. Alrighty, everyone, and this is going to be the part of the episode where I talk about my time at the HBCU Festival. If you don't know what the HBCU Festival is, it is held every year at the Mann Center in Philadelphia. And what they do is basically they bring a bunch of schools, companies together at the Mann Center, and they put on this big thing so that Philly students could learn more about HBCUs. And of course I went because I knew that the performances were going to be good. I knew that NCAT's drumline was going to be there. I knew that my school, Howard University's gospel choir, was going to be there. So I guess those were like two of my biggest factors of going, but I don't regret going at all. I suggest that if you are in Philly area or surrounding areas and you're able to make it next year, please do. So I'm gonna start by talking about my experience getting there. So I don't drive, however, the Mann Center provided free transportation from a couple of locations throughout the city. I and my brother, we went to the Stephen Klein Wellness Center location, which was not that far from our high school program. And so we took SEPTA there, then we got on the bus from the Mann, which was, a regular old cheese bus, nothing special, but it makes all the difference for free transportation. You know what I'm saying? Me and my little brother, we ended up having the whole bus to ourselves, which was good for me because I have a little bit of anxiety when it comes to like new people and people I don't know. I'm usually quiet like a lot, and I stay to myself when I'm in like overwhelming situations like that. But anyway, yeah, we get there. It took maybe 15 minutes to get there, maybe less. And everything was pretty seamless. I really liked that it wasn't really any lines, and they made sure it wasn't any lines. Well, naturally it was going to be lines at some capacity, but they tried to make the process as smooth as possible, try to get everybody in as fast as possible. Immediately when I went in, I go straight to, I think what they were calling the TD Pavilion, because the event was sponsored by TD Bank. I went there because that's where all the performances were. I know I came in with the mindset like, hey, I'm really just here for the performances. So the first performance that was going on when me and my little brother arrived was, I believe it was the Jeremy Winston International Chorale. I don't know what that school is, but they sang Happy Day, so that's such a classic song to start off the event with, and I really appreciated that. Then I'm not necessarily sure if I'm going in order, but this is the best of my memory. Next was the Powerhouse of Red and White for Winston-Salem State University. So if you don't know who they are the cheerleading team for Winston-Salem State. So like you can imagine, it's Stomp and Shake. If you don't know what that is, Stomp and Shake is just a style of cheering. It's like predominantly seen amongst African American cheer teams. It's like, they're digging in their diaphragms, yelling, using deep voices, stomping and shaking, like literally, you know what I'm saying? So that's what the Powerhouse of Red and White represented there. And then after that, it wasn't a school, it was an organization that's in Philadelphia. I believe it's called Project Positive, and they had a guest named Bruce Pop Pop Johnson. So they, they were so ridiculous, but in the best way, because they got on that stage and they was dancing all kinds of ways. There was this one guy that was, I think he was 17 years old, they said, but he was standing, fully standing on another one of their shoulders, and then he did a backflip off of the shoulders. And then there's this other thing that they did where it was three people all holding on to each other, and they were just spinning around. If you need this visual, please visit my Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at Musically Made Podcast, and you'll see the whole like recap of the day, well, of the performances, not necessarily of the day, but yeah. And then after them, it was the Cold Steel Drumline and Cool Miss dancers from North Carolina A&T. So, fun fact, my mom, she's a flight attendant, right? So my mom, she had a flight from Greensboro, North Carolina to here. And I guess if you put two and two together, you can figure out that the drumline and the dancers were on that flight. And my mom, she told me that they had asked her to say their chant over the loudspeaker in the plane, and she had let them. Now, I'm not going to say their chant because I don't go there. I go to Howard. So, yeah, I'm sure they enjoyed themselves on that flight because of my mother. So, shout out to her. And I'm trying to think. But, you know, there's not really much to say about them. They always have performed well. Over the years, a lot of drumlines look up to them. How their time slot was, they got to perform and then they took a break, and then after the break they came back and did a drum clinic with anybody that was in the area. There was a couple high school bands there. The Mann Center has its own drum line, so I can imagine that, you know, those specific people were at the drum clinic. But while that was going on, I decided to do my little roaming because, you know, it's so much more to offer than just the performances there. I went to the college fair where it was a whole bunch of schools, and to name a few off the top of my head, I know Morgan was there, my school Howard was there, FAMU was there, Morris Brown College, and you know, you can't forget like the state HBCUs, Cheney and Lincoln, they were there as well. And it was so many other schools. I'm so glad that the turnout was worthwhile because yes, we want to learn about HBCUs that are closed and things of that nature, but you know, I like that they had a range from the top to the bottom, kind of, in a way. Of course, I visited Howard's table, but mainly just to give them information if they ever got anybody that was interested in joining the Showtime Marching Band, you know. And after the college fair, I briefly walked through the career fair. Off the top of my head, I know that it was opportunities from the Philadelphia Water Department, from Wawa, from the 76ers, and I remember Pico being there too. But you know, after I did my little walking around, I met a pageant queen that was selling authentic Hispanic water ice, I think it was. Yeah, I think she was selling that, and I took a cute little picture with her. And I met a girl who went to Tennessee State University, and she played my instrument. She played saxophone. So, of course, you can imagine we was chopping it up for a little. The only difference I will say is that I played tenor saxophone and she played alto saxophone. You know, but you know, saxophone family, all of that. So, you know, after talking to her, I grabbed me some water, but after that, I was a little overstimulated, so I decided to just go back to where the performances were. And when I got back, the Mann's Motion and Music Academy Drumline and Elite Steppers were coming on, and those young folk did really well, I must say. There was two cymbal girls, and they did like, if you know, like patty cake, like they did patty cake with the cymbals. I have not ever seen that in my 3 seasons of marching band, or you know, watching videos of other collegiate marching bands. Like, I have never seen anything like that. I think they were just like having fun. I don't know if that was rehearsed or not, but I really did appreciate it. And then after that, it was a lot of like breaks in between the performances. Within one of the breaks, one of the dancers from Project Positive dressed up as a Michael Jackson impersonator, and he danced to Billie Jean. He did so good. After that, time was winding down. The bus was supposed to come back and pick us up at 4. It's like 3:30, 3:45. Like, I really need for my school's gospel choir to come on before I leave, because I know I would have been so upset if I left without seeing my own school's gospel choir. As a band student in the springtime, we would rehearse on Tuesdays and Thursdays, which also happened to be the gospel choir's rehearsal days. So usually on Tuesdays and Thursdays, we would have to gather our stuff and hurry up and get out so that the gospel choir could come in after us. And sometimes if I had the free time, I would sit and listen to them rehearse, because they always sounded so good, but I've never had the opportunity to see them actually perform until this HBCU festival. So I am grateful that I have that experience. I don't know if I'm going to have it again until I'm good and graduated, but yes, they did so well, and I wouldn't trade that experience for anything. Basically, that was my experience at the HBCU Festival at the Mann. In a nutshell, I enjoyed my time there. I don't regret taking the time out of a Saturday to go up there. And I strongly suggest that next year, if you're in high school, if you know anybody in high school in Philadelphia or in the Philadelphia area or in surrounding areas, I highly suggest y'all take the time to go to this event next year. I've been watching this festival happened for a couple years now. I'm not sure how old it is, but I remember last year being a little sad that I wasn't able to go. But this year, I was able to go. I made it, and I'm grateful that I did. Well, with all that being said, that's all for this week. Please make sure that you follow at Musically Made Podcasts on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube to stay up to date on the latest episodes and content that I'm going to have for y'all. I hope to see you all next week.